Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Aisha. It's always a privilege to have you hold up this class. As a sister to the house and a faculty member we all love a lot. I look forward to the class as usual. I know that it's going to be interesting. I wait for how it goes. Thank you very much once again for call listen appearing when we call you. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's 5 on the dot. Good evening, once again, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Edie. Good evening to the other executives of the college and our speaker for the day. My name is Jessica Ochudi Daniel. I will be your moderator for this weekend. And before we commence, I'll just read a short biography on our speaker for today. Our speaker is Aishatu Ella John, and she is a policy and advocacy strategist, a community development worker. Aishatu has years of experience in community project implementation. She is interested in building a gender-smart population, improving participation of young women in governance in Nigeria through capacity building and partnership development. She is also a child development champion. Her years of experience spans through different developmental sectors, including public health, child development, gender and policy advocacy, and climate change. That is just a brief bio on our facilitator for today. And with that, join me as I welcome Aishatu Ella John. You're welcome, ma. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back here again. A little under the weather, but canceling this class wasn't an option. So you bear with me if my video goes off. I just put it on so that you can put a face to the name. So nice to be back again, and thank you for having me. Okay, so I think we should start. Can I start?
Yes, ma'am. Please, you can go on.
Okay, so my slides are with Lisa. I don't know if you can project or should I share from my end?
Okay, good evening, ma'am. Which is more convenient for you?
So because I sent them, I've not downloaded them, so getting to share may be a little challenging, right? Okay, hold on. I can get it. Yeah. I can get it out.
If you want, we could share it too.
Okay. Okay, so please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So this is gender and governance. Everybody relax. It's not going to be one of those classes where you are going to meet an angry feminist. It's one of those classes where you meet somebody who is very eager to have women participate and also have women pull their weight. So please relax. It is not going to be one of those classes. Okay, so I have a quiz before we start because I like people to participate. So these are the two questions I have. Please respond in the chat box. Fastest finger first, and the most correct answers wins 1,000 Naira recharge card for any network of your choice. So the first question I have is, do we have any female traditional monarch in present-day Nigeria? So this is a yes or no. No, you just type in the chat box. I don't know if you want to respond verbally. Just type in the chat box. Thank you. And the second question is, which present-day state has the most had the most number of female monarchs in the pre-colonial era? That is before the colonialists came. Which state of Nigeria had the most female monarchs? So I have 2 minutes for that. I'm checking my chat box now to see who is going to win my recharge card. Okay, yes, for question 1. Okay, so you have to answer. Okay, Anambra State for question 2. I have that is the response from Cletus. So I'm looking forward to more responses. People don't want to win my recharge card. Okay, so I'll give it 1 more minute to see how many responses come along. Yes, for question 1. If you want to win, you have to answer question 1 and question 2. Thank you for your response, Domi. Okay, so the second question is, which states? Let me write the questions in the chat box. Okay, so Akwa Ibom, somebody said Ondo. So the question again is, which present-day states, that's which state in Nigeria, had the most female monarchs in the pre-colonial era? So 30 seconds to go. Okay, question 2, somebody said Kaduna. Domi said Kaduna. Her first answer was yes, and his first answer was yes. MEK said yes and Kaduna. So Ibrahim Mohammed said Zaria. You didn't respond to question 1. Tukuru said enough, which is yes, but you have not responded to question 2. And Enugu. Okay, question 1 is yes, enough, and Enugu. Okay, so my time is up. Unfortunately, nobody won my quiz, so I'm keeping my recharge card today. Sorry. As we go further you will see the response to the questions, to the answer. Okay, so this is just an overview of what we are having today. So from far back pre-colonial times, women have always been in leadership. They've always had leadership and governing positions. However, the population of women to men in Nigeria is roughly 51% of men and 49% or 48%, 59 point something and 48 point something to women, which is almost equal. But in terms of governance, there has always been an equal number of women in decision-making and governance position. So the aim of this course is to review the participation of women in governance and to look for ways as you go into policy making, as you go into governance, to see ways that we can make this participation better, and not just better, more effective. So definition of terms, as we know, gender refers to characteristics of men, women, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. This includes norms, behavior, and roles associated with being a woman, a man, a girl, or a boy, as well as relationships with each other. Then governance is a pattern of rules or practices of governing. The study of governance generally approaches power as a distinct from or exceeding the centralized authority of the modern state. So please, what type of governance do we practice in Nigeria? Do we practice monarchy? I like the participatory class, so, and I used to give award. What kind of governance do we have in Nigeria? Democracy, okay, thank you. That's right. Presidential, okay, that's still democracy. Thank you. Okay, so women and traditional governance. And yes, all of you were right. We have a lot of female monarchs in Nigeria currently. So this is Her Royal Majesty Moyinola Olubumi Falowo. She's the regent of Ibule in Iforode local government area of Ondo State. She's a graduate and she studied microbiology. She became a regent in 2019 after the demise of her father. She's a regent and she's a regent and she reigns till they're able to select, the kingmaker select a new king to rule over the affairs of the community. You can see how gaily dressed she is to fit her position. So we also have Her Royal Majesty Taiwo Oyegbola Agona. She's a regent and she was crowned in 2017 temporarily to take the throne until the kingmaker chose a male king through the guidance of her ancestors. She became a regent because of the fact that she was the first girl child and she was crowned after the Alaye Aye Ogba Ogbonna Oriomu II, who died on 4th of May 2017. She's also a graduate of Achievers University in Owo, where she studied medical laboratory science. So we are on Know Your Monarchs Day, your female monarchs. Then we also have Her Royal Majesty Tinuade Babalola Adejuyegbe. Tinuade, she's the Oluborapa, please forgive my pronunciations. In Akoko Ondo, she also became a regent in 2015, shortly after her father died. And she's also she was an undergraduate then of Adekunle Ajasin University, Ondo. She studied public administration and graduated in 2018 and served her NYSC. And she's the first monarch to do so. So imagine a monarch in camp, having a monarch in camp. How cool would that be? Okay, so we also have the Omu of Anyoma, Her Royal Majesty Mata Dunko. She was a media practitioner and studied in England, and she moved to Nigeria 35 years ago and consulted for the late Oba of Benin. He appointed her as she became the she was selected for the position and she occupied it for 20 years and she died in early 2024. So we can see that we have, and there are a lot of others. You can do your research, just Google female monarchs in Nigeria, you'll see that there are a lot of, there's not a lot, but there are a fair number of them, contrary to some people's popular beliefs that there are no female monarchs in Nigeria. Okay, so Nigeria has been recording low participation of women in elective and appointive positions. And this has been forever. As we can see, even as we go to pre-colonial Nigeria, you will see that there are numbers, but they are not that, for the number of communities we have, there's like an unequal balance between women in governance positions. So we had the Beijing World Conference, and that was when they advocated, women gathered from all over the world and advocated for 30% affirmative position. That means any government that was signatory to the Beijing conference would give women 30% positions in governance. And Nigeria was a signatory. And after the Beijing conference, Nigeria came and put its own national gender policy, which recommended 35%, 5% more than the Beijing Convention recommended. And we sought for a more inclusive representation of women in both elective and appointive positions. But elective it can be tricky to the sense that you can't force people to vote. People have their choices, and they should vote. They will vote who they want to vote. Unfortunately, our average political participation in Nigeria has remained at 6.7%. That is, at our best performance, we are at 8%, and at our lowest, sometimes we are 3 to 5%. But the average position has remained 6 to 7% in both elective and appointive positions. The global average is 22.5%, and you can see that we are well below that. Okay, so to answer our second question, Katsina is the state. Katsina had the most female monarchs. They had over 8 queens in pre-colonial Nigeria. And we can see the list of the female monarchs in pre-colonial Nigeria. We had monarchs who were, a female monarch who was Ooni of Ife in the pre-colonial days. We also had over 3 or 4 female monarchs who were Alaafin of Uyo. I know that that's a very powerful position. Then in Katsina, especially the Royal Emirates, we had a lot of queens. We had a lot of you know about Queen Amina. Also, a lot of movies have been made about her. But what we did not know, a lot of us did not seem to know, is that Katsina, especially the Royal Emirates, produced a lot of queens. A lot of queens in pre-colonial Nigeria. You can count and you can see up to 8 queens from the Dora Emirate Council. Then we also have Ondo, and you can see that till today Ondo is still producing female monarchs. Then we also had a queen from Boni Rivers local government. She was a queen in Queen Kanbasa was a queen in pre-colonial days. So post-colonial Nigeria, colonial Nigeria, there were a few women. The women were worst affected by colonialism, because you can see in pre-colonial Nigeria, we had a healthy number of monarchs, especially in northern Nigeria. And can you compare that with what we have now in northern Nigeria with women participation in governments? No, because the colonialists came, and then also the religious incursion into Nigeria affected northern Nigeria a lot. Before the religious incursions, we also had our traditions and cultures, and you can see that the tradition in northern Nigeria promoted female monarchy. But when religion and colonialists came, you can see how they threw northern Nigeria backwards, and we are still struggling with that today. So women were adversely denied their franchise, and it was only in the 1950s that women in southern Nigeria were given their franchise. We all read about the Aba women riots, because women were asked to pay taxes, and in those days, women did not even have land. So where were they supposed to pay the taxes from? They just engaged in small-scale trading, and also while they were paying taxes, they were not even given any sort of political power. So that was part of what led to the Aba women's riots in 1929. That and other factors. But in the 1950s, after years of advocacy, 3 women were appointed into the House of Chiefs. The late Mrs. Olufumilaro Ransom Kuti. Then we also have late Chief Margaret Ekpo, and we also had Chief Janet Moloku. Both Margaret Ekpo and Janet Moloku were appointed into the Eastern House of Chiefs, while Olufumilaro Ransom Kuti was appointed into the Western House of Chiefs. Post-colonial period, again, you see Ms. Margaret Ekpo there. She contested for election and she won. She became a member of the Eastern Nigeria House of Assembly till 1966. Also, you can also see Ms. Janet Moloku. This is a woman who really wanted to be in governance, and they worked towards it. However, unfortunately for us, in northern Nigeria, we had a different situation. While the women in the South were given their franchise to participate in governance, women in the North were not even allowed to participate at all. Then we had a very prominent female politician. A lot of us who were born in the 90s may have heard about her, Hajiya Gambo Sawaba. I think she died early 2000 or late 90s. And she was one of the very strong female advocates in the North. She worked with them late Abubakar Rimi. I think they're not in the same party, but they worked together. She was very, very active and very politically active in the North. She was one of the women who fought and fought till no women in Northern Nigeria were allowed to vote and be voted for. So you can see going from having the highest number of female monarchs to having no vote at all, talk less of even being voted for. That is how the colonial period and religious incursion drew Northern Nigeria back, and we are still not recovered till today. So post-colonial democracy, a lot of women at this point, we had dropped some of the toga of colonialism, and we had now had a lot of women who were not only appointed into government, federal cabinets, but we also have women who won their seats at State House of Assembly and national and federal level also. After the military regime introduction of democracy, Obasanjo did fairly well, but the participation was still very low. Obasanjo did well. I think Jonathan did the best, but the participation of women in politics was still very low. We have had five presidents, and their vices all have been males since the introduction of democracy. But we have had a female governor, yes, Demi Tiaba, who became governor after Peter Obi was impeached in Anambra State. We've had deputy governors, we've had women who tried to be governors, and the highest we have achieved in the House of Representatives was in 2015, with 26 women winning seats in the Federal House of Assembly, Federal House of Representatives, and 8 women winning seats in the Senate out of 109 senators, which is still very poor. That's less than 10%, which is still very poor. Okay, so this is open. I want us to first of all identify these women and discuss their roles in the 2023 election. So now I think you can raise your hand and indicate, and I can unmute you to speak. So who knows any of these 2 women and what were their roles in the 2023 election? Okay, so Peter, I can see your hands up, but I don't know.
You can unmute, Peter.
Okay.
Hello.
So go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Professor Nina Oti was the returning officer in Abia State. She insisted that she will not doctor the results. She will pronounce the results exactly the way it was supposed to be. She refused bribe of any sort. That's what I know about her.
Okay. Do you know Aisha Binari? Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. I remember her. She was the one that contested in Andaman State that was initially announced as the winner, but later they said she's not the winner. Yeah, I remember her.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you.
There is always Chuku Bechi.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, ma. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
I know Professor Nena Oti as a returning officer of Abia State and also the Vice Chancellor of, think should be Abia State University or thereabout. I knew her as a woman that stands by her word. She gave her word to the Abians that the election results cannot be altered. That's why she insisted. So upon every bribery and rest of pressures,
from the ruling of Progressive Congress, PDP, and other political parties. She insisted that the election collected from different polling units will be announced unaltered. So that's what I know about her, and I believe that singular attitude made Nigerians to love her most in her field of work.
Thank you. So do you know Aisha Benari?
I don't know her that much. All I know is that she contested for governor at Adamawa State some time ago, but I don't know much about her.
Okay, thank you. So let me take the last from Isaac James. I don't know women in this class. I'm not happy not to have women speak up. Isaac James, please go ahead.
Isaac James, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, this is Isaac James from Jos.
Hi, Isaac.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, for me, Professor Oti, yes, just like my colleague rightly said, she was a returning officer in the 2023 general election. And she did what her male counterparts, could not do, which is honesty and transparency, and which is what is expected of everyone, irrespective of gender, in politics. I think for me, that's the little I know about her.
Okay. So nobody knows Aisha Benari. I wrote in 2023 election. Okay, thank you everybody for your beautiful responses. So you've said a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I take one more response?
Okay.
Okay.
So,
please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but was she the one where the returning officer declared her by himself?
Yes.
Without waiting for proper process.
She went ahead to give a speech.
Yes, and she went to give an acceptance speech for governorship.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So these two women, they both played the role in the 2023 election. Everybody seems to know Professor Oti because her role was very, very positive. We could see a lot of the confusion and conflict that okay, we could see a lot of the confusion and conflict that a lot of the returning officers created for the courts and INEC because they did not do the right thing. And that was resisted by Professor Oti in Abia. And I'm not a member of any political party, but I assure you that Abians are, from the response I've seen, governance in Nigeria is not really rocket science. Abians are really happy with the results of her action. And for Aisha Binari in Adamawa, it was almost like treason. It was more of a coup. The returning officer went on his own. I don't even know, is it the return? It's not even the returning officer, it's the state's is the state INEC rec, I think. I'll try to clarify that, but he just went on his own. He didn't usually votes are collated from all local governments and all everywhere and all parts of the state. But he just went on his own with a piece of paper, announced the results, and she also rushed to NTA News to go and congratulate herself and give her acceptance speech. And it was just a scandal. And at that point, I was scandalized. I said, is this where we have gotten to? How is this even possible? I couldn't even understand it, but thankfully, INEC was able to arrest that particular situation, and that didn't happen because that would have been the worst abuse of power in modern democracy. So this is to show that women are not perfect. Women, as much as we advocate for women to be in governance, we also have the same way we have the men who are good and bad. We also have the women in governance who have good roles, like we can see Professor Oti. Out of all her male colleagues, she stood out. And we also have Aisha Benari, who could have been governor, but almost committed the coup just to achieve her ambition. So how have political parties been trying to support women in politics? So I'm sorry, I know there are other political parties, but I just did this for the three major political parties. So for All Progressive Congress, they have a 50% off nomination forms for women. For PDP, they also have 50% off nomination forms for women. And for Labour Party, we have zero cost for expression of interest form for women. So I don't know if that is also applies to nomination forms, or that just stays with expression of interest forms. But we all know that beyond expression of interest forms and having nomination forms, a lot goes into winning the primaries, first of all, a lot of financial commitment, a lot of physical commitments, and then also winning an election. So it is beyond just the expression of interest forms and slashing the cost for women. So what do you think political parties can do better to support women to get into good women, not just women, to get into governance? Let's discuss for 1 minute.
Okay, Ma, do you want them to raise their hand and
Yes,
speak
please.
or to?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Okay.
All right. Idiabi, you can go on.
Thank you. Is it okay if I didn't want to answer the question with political parties, but I wanted to say parliament.
So
Parliament can make it in a way that certain states or the ministers of the federation are, I don't want to use the word forced, but because of lack of a better word, mandated to have a good percentage of female representation. So in every state, governors would be mandated to have maybe, if there's 20 commissioners, at least 10 must be women, and competent women too. Things like that can make sure that in every administration, there's good representation of women in the government.
Okay, thank you very much. Isaac James, please go ahead.
For me, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, for me, I think the activists and civil society groups have a role to play in this issue. Because if you check societies where women have a reasonable percentage of in politics, civil societies played a major role, creating awareness, enlightening people, educating people on the need to allow women to participate, in politics. So I think civil societies have a role to play. And then also the legislature, a law needs to be on ground, a law needs to be put in place to ensure that a certain percentage, is given to women, whether at the local government level, the state, or even the federal.
Thank you, Isaac James.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that for we to have a greater percentage of women participating, we should first of all make the offices, let the juicy attraction in those offices be reduced. We have a lot of women who are wiser and have what it takes to make the political system work better, but they don't have that strength, that agitative strength to put their life on the risk to start maybe making a lot of physical contentions with their male counterparts. And the major reason why we see a lot of the male counterparts rushing into the system is because of the juicy attraction. So I think if those juicy attractions are reduced to its barest minimal, the ratio at which we have the male scouting for these positions will really drop. That is one. And then also, the legislative system should pass a law where those the monies that are being used for the purchase of some of those forms during the election times should also be reduced. Let it be brought down and be made very affordable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll take two last responses from Akarele, Peter, and Domi. Then we will move on. So Peter, go ahead.
Peter, you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I said, personally, I don't think women will participate in these activities if they don't have interest. No matter what system we put in place, no matter what plans we have for them, no matter how juicy or non-juicy, so to speak, we make these positions. Until they are interested in these positions, they won't come. So it is what we are supposed to do is help them have interest, encourage them to be interested in this position enough to contest for the position. Because if they are not interested, even if we say only women should come and do this, as long as they are not interested, nobody will show up. It's not the fault of men. It's not because men are the ones at the end of affairs. It's open for everybody. As much as you can put the effort in to get the position, you are welcome to try. But women should be more interested. Take, for example, the cohort we are doing today. Consider the percentage of women there. Even in this class as we speak, how many women are contributing or saying anything now? It's not as if there's something hindering them. It's just the interest and the political will to join. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a very strong point. That's a very strong point. So Domi, please, your point. Make your contribution.
Domi.
You can unmute.
Domi, you can unmute and ask the question, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening.
Finally, thank you.
But I've been responding in the chat box. But anyway, just to reference first of all, before I go ahead, what Mr. Peter said, I think that if we're being fair and we look at things culturally from Nigeria, women have actually been involved in a lot of things. Again, like we had said, pre-colonial era. I think that the way that things are set up now, somehow it feels as if it's automatically rigged against women. So you cannot blame them sometimes if they just feel like this race is just male dominance. I'm not saying that people shouldn't take the chance to be able to put in their, put in the work, the good work that they would want to do, especially if they feel like they have things to offer. Secondly, I think that one of the things that should be done, putting forward, is the enforcement of the affirmative action. So, and this is of course across even the executive and parliamentary. So if we're saying that we're going to give 35% affirmative action to women to ensure that there are women who participate more, then I think that should be enforced so that no matter what it is, even the bare minimum number, there's a representation of women. However, I also think that we need to come to a point where we encourage women, especially from the religious point of view, because Nigeria, again, is a very religious country. And there are a lot of these standpoints or ideologies that people have, and they use religion to back up as to why they feel like they should take a back seat as opposed to, being front runners and taking up positions of authority. So I think that when we also get to the point where we also involve, let's say, religious leaders across, religions, to encourage women to go into politics, let them know that it is not a religious violation. They are not in breach of their chastity or whatever that is, but it is good. But I also don't believe, as someone had mentioned something about, maybe this is me paraphrasing, giving women, let's say, making their tickets less expensive. I don't believe in that. I also believe that because we're trying to encourage women does not mean that we just is just a, I don't know, it's just a free ticket. People should be able to work hard to get what they want. And I think that in that way, we're also encouraging competent women to get into these positions, so that it's not just a thing about, oh, because she's a woman, oh, we're trying to do diversity, and so we just pick anybody. I think that in the course of us trying to be very inclusive, we should ensure that the people that we're including in all of these things are competent. So I just believe that a good environment for everyone to thrive and for people to throw in putting the work that they need to do to be able to take up these positions of authority and leadership would help.
Thank you very much. You didn't disappoint me. You see why women should be in governance. Thank you very much. So everybody, you've made very strong points, and I agree with almost all of you. So, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that we have with women in governance? The first thing, and that's where I agree with Peter, is the interest. So, just by show of hands, how many people, how many of us here know, I'm trying to get the pronunciation right, Seda Bodge. I hope that's the name, Seda Bodge. Or how many women on this know Seda Bodge? Yes. Okay, one person. Or am I not able to see everybody's hands? Seda Bodge, maybe I'm not getting the pronunciation right. But she seems to be a very popular woman now. Okay, I've seen another person's hand, another woman's hand, somebody's hand. So how many people know, by show of hands, to put your hand down if you have responded to this one? How many people know Josephine Efua? Almost nobody. Okay. So the first person is a viral sensation. She's a viral sensation. Almost everybody knows her now. She's in lots of controversial hot takes, and everybody was going on and off. But thankfully, I'm really happy that it has died down a little bit. While the second person started the first, that's Josephine Efua Chukuma, started the first ever domestic violence shelter in Nigeria. And beyond that, she has pushed for and implemented the domestication of the Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Act in very different states of Nigeria. She has also moved those. She has also ensured that some of these states that a lot of states are able to have domestic violence shelters, or even when they are not shelters, they're able to have domestic violence response teams to help women who are in the situations get help. But because women, a lot of us, not just women, I'm speaking to women now, so we'll be honest with each other. We do not have interest in these things. So we may not know this person. So maybe there's a situation and we now have to start looking for help. That's when we know that this exists or this person exists and this person has been doing this and that. But once it is gist or something that lands on, if it's something important, people will say, oh, there's no awareness, there's no information. And even when you provide awareness, you give information, there's still very little interest. You find if it's something of women, somebody gives a very, very powerful speech about women in governance or how women participate or whatever, you find maybe 3 comments. If it's a video, let's say 100 views, 20 comments, and some of it will be from men, and they'll now be arguing about whether she's kneeling down to greet her husband or not. But you just don't generally find interest. But let Stella, what's the name of this blogger? This lover, drop one just now of who is sleeping with whose husband. And you find in an hour, you find over 30,000 or even 100,000 comments. And I can bet you, I've not taken any data, so please don't quote me on this. 70% of those commenting are women. So we have to learn how to shift our interest to things that affect us. A lot of women in 2022 didn't know that there was a constitutional amendment that was going on. And part of what was mentioned here is part of what was being discussed during the constitutional amendment. That women, first of all, how many of us know that women, as a woman, if you are married to a foreigner, you cannot, your husband cannot nationalize as a Nigerian because you are a woman? How many of us know as women? So there are a lot of things. Okay, Domi knows that as a woman. So these are some of the issues. But the constitutional amendment was going on, and women were not even, there was no awareness, even among the female influencers, there was no awareness, there was basically nothing. It was still going on with gist and gossip and who was sleeping with who and whatever. There was no awareness to show that, okay, this is going on. How can we help? What can we put? All these bloggers that have interest of women, there was no push, there was no pull to say, okay, how can we get women interested in this? How can we get women to speak out and fight for this thing that's supposed to be theirs now? And also, the vote to have women have special seats for women in parliament failed. The same 2022, alongside with this, the vote to change the constitution to make women have their partners nationalized, because that's a constitutional right. If I'm marrying somebody from US now, I'm automatically going to become a US citizen because my spouse is there and my children will most likely be Nigerian. But why am I, as a woman, if I'm married to somebody that is not Nigerian, the person has to go through a whole process to become Nigerian because I'm a woman? But there was an opportunity to change this, but we were not even interested. We're not even aware. And if there's going to be another opportunity, it is still almost, I can bet you there's still going to be the same thing. Between that one and breaking news of somebody who snapped somebody's husband, somebody who snapped somebody's husband will have more attention. That's the reality. The second issue is financing. Like a lot of us have said here, beyond just reducing the cost of forms, there's a lot that goes into politics. There's mobilization, there's awareness, there's, at least your name has to be on people's lips, there are campaign posters, there's a lot of things go into politics, and all those things are finances. Do women have the finances? Do they have the support? If they do not, what kind of degrading things do they have to do to raise those finances? Who did they have to go and start meeting? Who did they have to go and start, I don't want to use that word, butt kissing, to go and start getting the finances to run an election? Those are part of the issues. But I'm not saying that the field should be leveled, to be reduced because we are women. But we are talking about equality of opportunities. Women do not have that kind of finances. I will not say they do not have it, but before I get a lot of attacks, but maybe our priorities are different. But in reality, there are a lot of men have more financial resources than women, even though some men will argue that the resources still go to women. Cultural and religious barriers, like Domi mentioned, these are very serious issues. You can see that from pre-colonial times, the northern Nigeria was far ahead of other regions of Nigeria in terms of having female leaders. But there was now the religious incursions, and the people that came and said, no, our religion says this. And so those people that they met practicing their own tradition and culture were thrown out, and this religious way of life was taken. Then we also have the colonialists who came and saw that North Nigeria had the monarchy system and it was almost like their own. And they now said, oh, let us restrict women so that they are not able to vote at all and be voted for. And then we also had the religion, which now also made women a little more docile and not and silent at that point. So you see that it even took a longer time for Northern Nigerian women to get the right to just vote, not even to talk about being voted for. So there's no how we can say that those do not affect, those are not barriers for women. Because even in modern day Nigeria, I think there was in 2015, there was a vote on the 2015 or 2016. There was a vote for women on, I can't remember what vote it was particularly. And women, all the women in the Senate were mobilized. They had a few males. Okay, the gender equality bill. Senator Abariba was the one who pushed that bill. And all the women were mobilized, and the men who were supporting the women also mobilized, and they went and they presented their bill, and they're about to vote. And Some male senators went and gathered and met Senator Zenapuro. They whispered, whatever it is they whispered to her ear, I don't know. But she went back to her seat and she sat down. And this was a bill for her gender. Only God knows what they told her that made her go back to her seat, abandon a cause that they had been fighting for, and they had even built male champions for. And she sat down and she didn't participate in that debate again or in the vote. And that's how that bill was thrown out. So these barriers are real. I'm happy that the next generation of women are rising above some of these barriers. But like has been said, if the religious leaders are not able, we are not able to get religious leaders to mobilize and to start speaking against some of these things, because some of them are man-made. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't like to read the Bibles by ourselves. We rely on the religious leaders to read the Bible or the Bible or the Quran and interpret for us. So we do not read and we do not get knowledge by ourselves. Because if we do, we'll see that some of these things are misinterpreted by the Bible or even in other religious books. So, like I said, interest and knowledge. Patriarchy is also an issue. And meeting schedules, like we all know, most political meetings are at night. I don't know why. It has to be at night. But this is done, and as a woman, as I'm a mother, I have children. Anybody asking me to go and meet them by 1 a.m. will definitely not see me there, because it's not just a reality for me. So how can we improve participation of women in politics? Funding is number one. So the Nigerian Women Trust Fund was initiated, I think, in 2017 or 2016. I can't remember the exact year. And what it does is put funds together for women who are contesting, interested in contesting in government offices. So now, are women even aware that this fund exists? Are women ready to contribute to these funds? Are women even aware of how to access these funds? Those are some of the major questions that we should be asking. Then, most importantly, after funding, is improving our interest as younger women in politics. And how can we do this? By using the peer pressure method. The same way we're able to sorry, excuse me, I said I was under the weather. Give me a minute. In 2023, beginning of 2023, a lot of people were not interested in the election. They were not even, a lot of them had not collected their PSVC. Then somebody came out, and all of a sudden, young people were everywhere, were going to collect their PVC, and now even became a status symbol. Oh, if you don't have a PVC, don't talk to me. If you don't have a PVC, you're not. And everybody was rushing, and we posted the lines, and people were now more interested, and they were using their money to conduct rallies. They're using their money to host activities. They're using their money to campaign. They're using their money to make jingles. So how do we get that kind of level of interest from women? Well, we'll see women using their money to host rallies for other women that are going to have governance, that are applying for governance positions. That will see women organizing rallies for women. That will see women using their funds to fund the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. That will see women that will say, oh, because at that point, nothing mattered. There was Big Brother came. Nobody even knew that Big Brother was happening. So at that point, they will get to a point that there will be gist. But women will put that gist aside and say, no, I want to focus on this election. Let this woman get into office. How do we get to that kind of, how do we get to generate that kind of interest? By using influencers, these same people that are bringing gossip. When they start building this pressure and pushing these messages ahead, women that are their audience will pick it up and move from there. That's the reality. But unfortunately, I don't know it just doesn't seem to be working. There have been trials. I've been in several committees where we have tried this, but the interest is just not picking up. And I'm hoping that things are going to improve. Another thing we can continue to do is advocacy and continuous engagement of religious and cultural institutions. We can start with the women wings of these groups, and now build up to the male leaders of these groups and advocate for them, because we can't find them. We can only advocate and continue to engage with them to show that really women participation in politics and even in leadership is not against our religion and culture. it is something that we have had before. And even in all books, women have been mentioned and women have been in position. So it is not, there's no religion that is against women participating in politics or in leadership. And like I said earlier, involvement and engagement of women influencers in politics is very important, because these are women other women listen to, and they watch and they spend most of their time relating to. So if they're involved and they're engaged in politics, they are most likely to influence other women to join politics than just me speaking boring English. Thank you very much for listening. I'm open for questions and answers. But before then, I want to say thank you very much to Kunle for this opportunity and for always giving me, welcoming me to this class. I'm really grateful. And thank you for all you do for the Electoral College. So I'm open for questions and comments.
Thank you so much for the class, ma'am. If you have questions, raise up your hand and we'll unmute you. Okay, there is Peter Akarele. You can go ahead, Peter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm going to thank you very much for the class. It was very insightful and engaging. What I'm going to say is not like a question; it's more like a submission. So I'll say that, like I said before, the major thing needed for women to participate or to be inclusive in politics and leadership in this country is, first of all, is fundamentally interest. If we can get them interested, they have the number. Women have the number. They have the capacity. They have a level playing ground. Maybe there's no equity, but equality is there. They can get funding. They can get support. We have educated women. They can, when you speak of religious bias or religious whatever it is, they can find their way around that. If women can come together, they have the numbers. They are more than men. Oh. Women in the population of Nigeria, women are more than men. If they can come together, maybe establish a political party, they won't need to go and meet any religious leader again. If they have a political party and then they bring forward their best candidate and contest in the election, they can win. We have women in every sector in Nigeria. We have them in the Christian sector, we have them in the business, we have them in music, we have them everywhere. All we just need to get them to do is get them interested at first. We need to get them interested in this position. And so this brings me to the question now. You as the facilitator, how would you say, or what would you say is the best way to get women interested in leadership and in politics? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. First of all, let me correct the notion that men have a higher population in Nigeria than women. So you can check the world population data sheets. I think men are more, but not more than 2% more than women, 1 point something%. So don't mind me. My first love is demography, so I'm very picky about data and information. And like I said during the presentation, to answer your second question, I don't know. That's I said this is by theory. I push it, but we've tried it. Like I said, we've tried it, but the interest is still not just speaking up. So we don't know. That's why we do these classes, to hear from younger women what we can do to make them more interested in politics. We've tried the peer pressure method. We've tried the influencer method. We've tried the mentorship method. We've tried the reward systems. Still not working. Okay, somebody else has their hands up.
Syllabus, you can go on. We can hear you, but not clearly. Can you speak up?
Thank you for your presentation. It was insightful and so encouraging. So I just want to actually note a question. Looking at women get involved into politics, one of the things I believe is after you encourage women to come, the first thing I believe is supporting them. Because within the women, I think some of them are not trying to unite to support a woman to go into higher level. They're just kind of like a jealousy, not try to support the woman to be a governor. So I believe women to be able to come together and believe this is our agenda. We can also reward them and come into politics, not just pushing men or encouraging only men to go into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. So that notion that only women must support women, I find it false because women have the thing about life is about choices. And as a woman, I may have somebody else that I support and may not be a woman. So does that make me wrong? So I think that it's the trick is in again finding somebody competent, somebody likable that people like, that women, not just women and men can get behind. When Peter Obi came, it wasn't just a men thing. So I've never seen any politician that comes and say, oh, men must support him, or only men support him, and he got it is a joint effort. So everybody is free to support who they want based on why they're supporting him or her. But I think the major point should be somebody that people can actually get behind. People of all genders can get behind.
Okay. Should I call the next person?
Yes, please.
Okay, Isaac James, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, mine is the network was bad, so I just got in now. Mine is I noticed one of the reasons why women do not participate in politics is basically a cultural and a religious thing, particularly where I'm coming from. I'm in the north, where some women. I remember one certain time I was an ad hoc staff conducting election. I was posted to a place, and then while I was trying to accredit a woman, I wouldn't mention her religion. I mean, her husband was behind her, and he was like, "Hey!" They pulled the marker from my hand, accredited herself, and they said, in their culture and religion, I am not permitted to do that. So these are some of the things that is hindering some women to participate in politics. Religious leaders and traditional leaders, they must be enlightened to know that, look, we can have good leadership from women also. We have seen it, in so many places, so many organizations.
I think we lost Isaac.
Yes.
So, yeah, but just to buttress his point, yes, I've had that experience. I've held an interview where a woman came with her husband. Her husband accompanied her. And when it was time to interview her, the husband came to the interview room with her and sat down and was looking at us. And we're all lost, and introduced himself as her husband. And of course, you know that she wouldn't get the job because that was, so how do you start working with somebody that her husband has to come and sit with her in an interview? So when you ask her to travel, or when you ask her to stay, to come over, stay late and work, or if there's something happening, how does that work? So I agree with you. These are very strong barriers, and we have a lot of yes. So we have a long way to go on that. So MK's hand is raised, I think.
Okay. MK, you can go on.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I wanted to address, I think, the first person that answered the question that said that women aren't aware, women are trying. I have a classmate from secondary school. I'm coming from the perspective of a southerner who tried to get into politics, or when she was trying to get into politics, they told her to go back to, she tried to use her husband's place. They told her to go back to her place. And her people at her place told her to go back to her husband's place. And this is within the same state, the same ethnic group. It's just that they're from different local government areas. So you have that against women. And it happens all over the South. I don't know about the North, but I can tell you it happens in the South. where they're like, you can't compete here, you belong to your husband, and your husband people say you're not from here, go back. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, the idea that, because I think the speaker already addressed it, the idea that somebody is a woman, I'd automatically vote for her is quite silly. Because do I agree with her platform? Do I agree with what she's saying? So I don't know why the onus is on women to support women just because they are women. No, I think that's demeaning and a bit patronizing. Women will support a woman they agree with. So that's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I think our facilitator just went offline. Maureen. Maureen. Okay, I think she's experiencing some network issues. Let's give her a few minutes to return, please. Thank you. Please pardon, we are trying to sort it out.
Okay.
Please, let's.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So sorry, I thought we were losing MEK. I didn't know I was the one that was having poor network.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I got her first point, which was about the southern women. Yes, I noticed that with women in the south, and that was part of what the constitutional amendment was trying to correct. Unfortunately, that failed. And again, like I said, no interest, no pressure, no women pressure. So the majority of the men that we had just voted the way they wanted, and that failed. It didn't pass. And it was something that we could have put a lot of pressure and put a lot of interest in it. So I think the situation in the north is quite different because we've had women who have held elective positions from states that are not their state of origin. We had Binta Koji, or who is now known as Binta Masigerba, who held positions of House of Reps in Kaduna State, which wasn't her state of origin. She wasn't even married there. She just lived there. And she was a member of House of Reps in Kaduna. and she now went to Adamawa, which is her state of origin, and she became a senator there. Then we also have Senator Grace Fodashade Bent, who was a senator representing Adamawa State, even though she was from Osun State, I think. And I know women who have been in elected positions and appointed positions, not from the states, like in Plateau State, we've had a commissioner of finance from Ogun State and other states and all that. So yes, that was part of what the constitutional amendment was trying to change and to make a law, but unfortunately that didn't pass. And that is why, again, we need to have interest in these things. Because without the interest, without the, if we're interested, I know women, if we're interested in something, we'll put our money, we'll put our energy and our resources there. I think one of the people of this government was saying women are part of the reason why forex is becoming so scarce because of the cost of human hair. And people were angry, but that's the reality, and that's something people like, women like, and that's how they spend. That's how we spend some of our money. So if we're interested, there's nothing for us to fund some of this advocacy, because a lot of the constitutional amendments that passed were things that state governors that had interest in put their money in. People that had interest in it, they put their money, they pushed the advocacy, they made a lot of noise. You have to make a lot of media noise. You have to make a lot of advocacy. You have to push a lot of, you have to do a lot of advocacy. You have to do, sadly, you have to do a lot of brown enveloping for your laws to pass. And we were not just even interested. We had a few women groups, we had a few governors' wives that were able to fund some of these things, but it wasn't enough. If we had even generated all the noise that we make for a lot of this, if we had made half of that noise for those constitutional amendments, they would have passed. Thank you. So I don't know if I missed any question when I was out.
I don't think so, ma. Okay, Ajayi Consult, please raise your hand so that I can unmute you.
That's actually me. That's my.
Oh, Mama.
Yes,
Okay, ma.
that's
I didn't see that. I don't think there's any other question.
Okay. So if there's no other question, I thank you very much for having me again. I thank Kunle. I don't know if he's still here, but I thank Kunle for having me every time. I thank Lisa. I thank you. And I thank this wonderful class. And unfortunately, nobody won my recharge card today. I'm hoping that the next cohort, somebody will win.
Yeah.
I'm really happy, and I appreciate you too. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to have joined such a very interactive class. I had a lot of fun and I learned so much. Thank you, Domi. Please push more for women in politics. Yeah, it's very important because these laws will not make themselves. Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you for this class. Thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate you, ma. And before we end the class, Maureen, I don't know if there is any announcements. Okay, I don't think there is. Maureen, okay, please.
Thank you very much, ma, for another interesting class today. So everyone, your assignments will be submitted tomorrow. And don't forget your projects. Deadline for submission is on the 21st. Any party that does not submit by 21st of June, everybody in that party will not graduate, will not get certificates. You have a lovely weekend.
Good night, everyone.